So without wasting much time, let's just get into this panel. And Renuka, I want to start with you. Tell us the difference between actually working for an institution like ICICI, and in your final years there, you were running ICICI Ventures, so very clearly in command of what you're doing, versus actually starting from ground up, a startup, doing the rounds, raising cash, raising capital actually at a difficult time, and then kind of hopefully making money out of it. Tell us the difference. And especially if you can focus on your early years, because the point of this discussion is actually people in their 20s or early 30s, women who want to make the transition into entrepreneurship, and we don't see very many of those happening. There are a few kind of instances happening out there, but how is it, what are the challenges, what did you face, etc., and what advice would you have for people?
So, well, a lot of people have asked me, how would it have been any different, because I used to run ICICI Venture as though it was my own, and even I had doubts whether it would be any different at all, doing multiples, which is a company that I created as opposed to an employment that I did in ICICI Venture. But much to my own surprise, it's been vastly different and vastly better for me. I think that when you're an employee, you cannot escape constantly running on a parallel track. What does your boss want? Or what does your shareholder want? Or whoever is next in the hierarchy. So you are optimizing for two things: what you believe is the right thing for your business, and what you think will get the admiration, appreciation, accolades of somebody that you are working for. And they don't necessarily run in parallel tracks all the time, although it shouldn't be much different. But there are times when what you want to do, which you believe is right for the business, may not receive the appreciation of who you are working for. And those moments cause immense stress because you are working against your belief or your conscience. So for me, it's a big liberation from being an employee to setting up multiples. I must confess I've been exceptionally fortunate in the multiples journey. I didn't have a moment of struggle. I think the reason I didn't have any struggle is that I could reset and reboot. So when I left ICICI, I had no difficulty or shame or falling in my own self-esteem to accept that I'm nobody. So I really said I'm zero. I'm back to zero. I'm starting from scratch. And so I expected absolutely nothing. If the best of my investor, best of my friend didn't take my phone call, I wouldn't have been hurt in the least bit. So my expectation with myself was very real. And a lot of my friends and well-wishers, as you know, in ICICI, we had such a good battery of people, colleagues who were all great friends. Most of them said, how will you deal with having no trappings? You're going to have no secretary, no car, no office, no huge support system, no big business card. Won't you miss all that? You're getting set to do absolutely a wrong thing. You're going to regret and come back. But the thing was that because I was mentally so well prepared that I'm not going to have all of that, again, the resetting was very, very easy for me. So the first time I traveled after I became an entrepreneur, when I didn't have a company at that time, I was just thinking about what to do. This was within the first week. I called up the same travel agent and I said, get me the cheapest ticket. And I didn't expect, we are all pampered, we have all these airport services and all of that. I didn't expect any of that. But he wanted to still give me the airport service. I got into this economy class, traveled like anybody else. I don't know where my life is taking me. The flight touched down in Chennai. I switched on my mobile phone. My daughter called me, said, Mom, have you landed? I said, yeah. So did you travel business class or economy today? I said, I traveled economy. So she said, okay, how are you feeling about it? I said, I'm feeling on top of the world So she said, okay, you will do well. And she put down the phone. So she was actually mentoring me in terms of, she was checking, have you reset yourself? You are actually nobody today. You are now going to create something. So when my secretary left ICICI and joined me, and she called up the travel agent and he said, Renuka now travels cheap tickets. She was shocked. She had tears in her eyes saying, ma'am, is it true you are traveling cheap tickets? Of course, this is my money. I had set a target for myself that with how little of my money will I set up my company and get on the road with being able to pay myself. I'd also set a target that within 1 year of leaving ICICI, I'll pay myself a salary. So I'll work for, by putting my own money and getting no salary for exactly 1 year. That was a kind of target that I had set for myself. So resetting that was again very easy. If I had left ICICI thinking that I'll sit in a bigger office, have a bigger car, I'll have the whole world, circling around me, I would have really got off on a wrong track. And then when it came to setting up an office, initially I started out of my son's bedroom. A very dear friend of mine said he had a gala in an industrial estate. So he said, it may not befit your stature, but, it's okay to begin with. So I took this gala and I was the only sari-cladded woman in that gala, quite obviously. When I used to wait for lifts, we had other small chemical distribution companies, call center, all sorts of other companies operating there. So, initially you may feel a little bit because ICICI Venture had really made that office like a palace. And from there you have moved down to a gala, which is okay. I don't have a pantry of my own. I would go to the corner tea stall and have a cutting chai there. The UTV offices were right there, So some of those guys would say, this is Renuka Ramnath, having cutting chai in the corner. It doesn't matter because it's a new life. And you have to reset the new life for the new matrices. What I tell my entrepreneurs, that please use your capital very judiciously. All these trappings are not important. They will happen whenever they have to happen. You have to build your business on good value system, and expect nothing. I really expected nothing from nobody.
Okay, that's very, very powerful kind of introduction, Renuka. Thanks so much. With hindsight, is what would you choose, to hire or to be hired?
So I really love the title of the topic, and compliments to all of you. And I also really want to compliment Mr. Arun Puri and Business Today for putting together this event every year. It's made a big difference, I think, to the women folk, and you were the first ones to think of it. Many, many other people who are now emulating your success. So although it was a very emotionally draining experience for me to leave ICICI, I must admit, as I said, I never used to think of ICICI Venture as an employer. I always thought of ICICI Venture as though it was my own. So it was emotionally heart-wrenching. I really never thought that I'll be able to get up from that emotional upheaval and really build another career for myself. But just a few days into the journey of entrepreneurship, the thought that came to me, which really gave me the energy to move forward, was, if you are in a position to hire someone, why would you work for someone? I truly, I love this topic, that the title of the topic, from the depth of my heart, because this is exactly the thought that kept me going. And I truly believe that every individual who can hire people should not offer themselves for employment.
I hope that message resonates through women entrepreneurs, or women want to be entrepreneurs out there. Thanks so much, Renuka. I'll come back to you with a question on how can you increase the pipeline, if you will, of women entrepreneurs, but it just parked that question in your head. Vaishali, what's your experience been working in the Big Apple with JP Morgan, and then moving to India, starting a not-for-profit platform, and as also helping at Renew? Please tell us.
Yeah, so for me, I was an accidental entrepreneur. I was advising a client on a charitable venture. The client was looking to set up a fundraising platform for a particular cause which was very dear to them. So it was basically working and advising them on this, and it just happened that they decided not to go ahead with it. And I actually thought that was a brilliant idea, and it was something I was really excited about. And I was terribly disappointed when it didn't really go forward. And I'd also been involved in a lot of charity when I was a young professional at JP Morgan, and even after that I lived in London. I worked as a banker in London, and it was very easy to, kind of donate for causes which were dear to us. But when I came back to India, it wasn't that easy. It was very limited. I thought there was, the transparency wasn't there, the feedback wasn't there, which was easily available elsewhere in the world. So when I was working on this project, it didn't happen. I thought it was my calling at that point, and I think what drove me was just the excitement of getting that, and with the permission of my client, I kind of took it up and set up. I had about 3-4 people who joined me, people who I'd known through my years in my earlier professions, and we just sort of got together and just transferred our vision into a business plan. And I spoke a lot to friends and family and clients who had worked with earlier, and we just got down to it, and it was extremely exciting. And for me, it was not about money. I think I'd reached a stage in my career where I was comfortable. I knew I could, to the extent I could meet my expenses, I was good. So it's just the excitement of making a difference, and I think giving a way of life, which I believe there's a lot of wealth in India. We kind of, we're kind of climbing up in terms of the number of billionaires and millionaires we have. But as far as giving is concerned, we're going all the way down. So I think the idea of being able to play a role there is extremely exciting. And the platform we've created, we get a lot of feedback. We give a lot of feedback. And every time we give feedback and we get a new donation from a retail donor, it's an amazing feeling, because we've not reached a stage where we are proactively marketing, so people are just searching us on the internet and coming and contributing to our causes. So it's great. So for me, it's not really so much about money. It's about trying to do things and to make giving a way of life, to have an impact. I think that's what's driving me. Just to go back to my days as a professional, I was a banker. I worked on Wall Street. That was my first job in New York. And I had gone to Columbia University, and that was the first time I left India to go to Columbia University. Huge change. I used to see people walking down New York City. Everybody looked good. Everybody spoke well. And I would just sit back, on my second floor studio apartment, staring out and, wondering, how am I going to differentiate myself from, these kids here? And I was the only Indian woman who got placed on Wall Street from my batch, which was encouraging. And after that, I worked for about 15 years on Wall Street, in London, etc. And the traits you need to be successful as a banker, which is, it's a lot of initiative, it's a lot of ownership, it's a lot of getting things done with limited information. And I think these are skills you develop, working without a kind of defined framework. You just have to go and get things done. I think all these sort of experiences just, I think, helped me hone my skills, which I think come in handy when you go on your own. I think when you're on your own, a few things which Renuka mentioned about, things like traveling economy from business class, not having your limo taking you from one meeting to the other. I think these are all humbling experiences. But if there is a bigger idea which is driving you, I don't think these things matter at all. And you have to be prepared to not worry about what people are going to say. Oh, we spotted her on economy, and and so gosh, what's going to happen to her if she's not going to be able to raise the next round of funds. Right. So just sort of a dissociation from what people will think, and you need to have a very clear backup plan. I mean, you have to be conservative. You have to break the rules and take risks, but you have to be conservative and be prepared with a business plan and have your vision on the plan and be able to communicate it.
Right. You talked about the impact of iCharity. Give us a little sense of that. What kind of impact you're having out there?
Yeah, sure. So iCharity is basically an online platform for a donation platform. It's a fundraising platform for non-profit organizations. We do a lot of diligence on NGOs. The NGOs we meet and talk to are non-religious, non-political. We look at passionate leaders who are running these NGOs. We've shortlisted about 6 or 7 causes which we believe in. And so we do a lot of diligence. We have some certifications, so there's a lot of process and rigor which goes into shortlisting some of these NGOs. And then we have 2 streams. One is retail. So it's people like you and me who can come online and research a cause and donate. So a USP basically is what we want to do is that we figured that a lot of funds, when they're raised, go into the administration of the cause, and not to the cause itself, and not to the end recipient itself. So what we wanted to do was use the online platform to diminish the amount spent on administration, etc., and to get the funds straight to the end user, and to minimize. So, right now 20% gets to the end user, 80% is spent on the administration of it. We wanted to kind of reverse this. And so that was one aspect of it. The other aspect was we wanted to give feedback. So people who gave contributions should know what happened. How were the funds used? So so if somebody's supporting a child's education for a year, and it's a, say, 5,000 rupee cause, we'd, at the end of 3 months, we would give a receipt of the purchases which were made, picture, a little summary, etc. So there's transparency and there's feedback so that people know what they've paid for, which was something I was looking for when I was looking to donate. And what we've seen is a very interesting trend. When we send the feedback, we often get a repeat donation from the same donor, which is very encouraging. So that is one part of what we do. We are engaged with the companies for payroll giving. So the standard program where people, as a part of their salaries, deduct a certain amount. And what we try to do is we try to get the employees who are giving to volunteer in the organizations where they're giving. So it's you give and you experience. And it's not just, kind of deducting a part from your paycheck, and not really. So a lot of people do want to do that, and it's like, their own time, and they feel good about it as well. We're doing the same exercise in schools. So a lot of the schools we are in discussions with where children they deduct a small portion of their fees for certain causes, but we engage the children in terms of volunteering, visiting the organizations, getting feedback, making presentations, so that they can also feel the whole sort of experience. And the whole idea is to introduce charity, giving and sharing at a young age, and then take it to the kind of across the spectrum of your sort of age band. So, yeah.
Thanks, Vaishnavi. Neha, when you left your previous job and decided to kind of go into India Art Fair, what was on your mind? What did you want to do? Why art? Why not something else, if I may? And what were the drivers then? And if you can compare that decision then versus now, how do you look back at that decision now?
I wish there was a decision, but there probably wasn't, to be honest.
All right.
It's just, business plans are important, and thinking things through in terms of quitting your job and starting a business is important, and having a backup plan is important. But, what's equally important, and I mean, the only experience I have to share is sometimes just to go with the flow. So sometimes just kind of follow your heart, experiment a bit, be a bit organic, take some chances. And that's kind of what happened in my case. So it kind of just happened. And sometimes when you put yourself in a mental framework where you're looking to make a difference, where you're looking to be entrepreneurial in your thinking, the opportunities kind of just show up. And as a young 26-year-old, that really was sort of my experience. So my jobs previously were more at a sort of a mid-management kind of jobs. I was working with PR companies and events companies and marketing organizations, both here and in the UK. And all along, there was a degree of sort of frustration of saying, what is it that I'm doing that hasn't been done before. What is the difference that I'm making to the world, to my world, to the country, to just what I'm interested in. And in a sense, it was sort of taking the skill sets that I had picked up in the course of working with all of these communications and management companies and applying it to an area that I'm very passionate about. And therefore the choice of fine art and sort of looking at creating a differentiated platform within the arts that serves several purposes, all of which are together aimed at kind of building an ecosystem around the arts. So it's, as someone from the previous panel shared, the idea of them joining the board was to be the chairperson of the board. The idea of me setting up the art fair was to create a platform that sort of brings everybody together. And that's a big claim for someone who's not even in the art world, and in a sense, a student on the outside. But I think it's, the spirit of entrepreneurship and the thinking of saying, I'm going to believe in partnerships and collaborations, in the fact that if you create a property that is distinguished, that is need-based, and that is, in a sense, feeding into the sentiment of the time, whether it's the art market booming, whether it's India shining and its importance in the global scheme of things. I mean, India was hugely marketable at the time that we started.
Correct.
And so all of those kind of became the opportunity and presented themselves in a way that there was this perfect spot of business meets education meets public programming, and suddenly there was, it worked out such that the arts could now be made accessible to a larger public. We've had 500,000 people come and go for the art fair over the last few years. It's very much about new publics and bringing art out of the art galleries, and it came from my own intimidating kind of experiences as a young person, not wanting to walk into a gallery because it was I would die of a shame attack. Yeah, it would be sort of, I wouldn't know what to do with myself because I was interested, but I didn't walk in with $1 million. And so just the openness of the art fair creates the opportunity of a bigger market. It brings out the academia and into a more public sort of context. And it internationalizes the art scene in a way that, other things may not do because they're all working in limited sort of ecosystems. So it was about creating an umbrella platform that brings all the different stakeholders together. And with my own journey, hire or be hired, as a previous speaker shared, it was an amazing experience. It just turned my world around to suddenly, hire other people. I remember the first art fair, we were 2 people. And even now, it's not that very many. But of course, in putting it up, overall, we need about 3,500 people to work together from various countries. So the scale excites me. Creating possibilities excites me. And the ability to think about sort of taking some risks and making a difference is what really keeps it going.
Would your entrepreneurial journey have been in some other direction if it met all your needs? So, for instance, if there was something in healthcare that met all these needs that you talked about, which is differentiated, impact, platform, do you think you would have gone in that direction?
Well, there was the passion for the creative industries. So there was a desire to somehow make a difference in this space. I believe that there are several players within the arts who are all functioning and doing amazing things, whether it's galleries or auction houses. But the reach of that is still limited in the Indian context. Not enough people get to see art. It's as simple as that. And so the idea of the art fair is to bring art into the public. And so that was the motivation. So for me, it was, the choice of art was because there was a desire to look at the creative industries as a business opportunity. I mean, this is coming to the sort of business side of things. It's a space that hasn't been looked at as a potential entrepreneurial or management kind of job. You look at the arts and you think about artists and creative people. And I don't have a creative bone in my body. I couldn't draw to save my life. But it's about being able to be entrepreneurial yet within the arts. So sort of passion with enterprise.
Great, thanks, Neha. We'll soon open up for questions from the audience, so please get them ready. But Renuka, I just want to get back to what I asked you earlier. How do we build a pipeline of entrepreneurs? Now, there are clearly success stories of folks like you three here, and there are a few more success stories out there, but do we need anything more than that, positive messaging, etc.? Do we need anything more than that to be able to actually have a lot more women entrepreneurs in this country?
So I think men or women, this country needs more entrepreneurs. And I think a lot has to be done. Because even when I was turning an entrepreneur with 25 years of corporate experience, there was so much doubt about whether it would happen or not, and so much advice against being an entrepreneur, a lot of social pressure from family. So it is difficult in this country. It's it's an unfortunate truth that entrepreneurship is not encouraged and worshipped as much as getting a job with a big company. So I think a lot has to be done. It has to start with schooling, college, a lot of good work that people like you are doing, because it's not just people here, everybody who's going to read it, which will be people who have to support entrepreneurs. So parents have to support their children becoming entrepreneurs. Spouses have to support their spouse becoming entrepreneurs. So we need change all around in the entire ecosystem. And I must confess, and I'll also share a personal story here. So when I left ICICI, it was such a learning experience for me in the category of response that I got. From older members of the family, there were instructions. Because they are older members of the family, they care for you and they can instruct you. So the instructions were, I think your ego is no good for you. Why can't you continue in ICICI? What's wrong, right? They don't even want to ask, why are you not continuing in ICICI? It's premeditated that it is my ego that has come in the way, right? And then second is, now you don't have a job, you don't have a salary. What are you going to do about reducing your expenses? Do you really need a driver? And so on and so forth. So that's reality. I don't want to look the other way, because this reality, if it is true for me, it has to be true for all my other fellow Indians. With my generation of people, it is, I'm not sure this is necessarily the best course for you, because you are taking unnecessary risk with uncertain outcomes. You are giving up too much in terms of economics and lifestyle. So if you still want to do it, we don't want to pull you back too much, but we want to give you a very strong word of caution. But from my son and daughter's friends, I had 50 auntie messages in my SMS inbox saying, we are so proud of you, auntie. We wish you all the best. I'm so sure you'll be so successful. We are so delighted that you're going to do something on your own. This is very heartening. And this is the truth. I'm not cooking up anything here, So I'm so happy that the younger generation of our country is having and nurturing a solid entrepreneurial fire in themselves. So we as parents, as fellow citizens, colleagues, friends, whatever, need to keep this fire burning and not quench this fire. Not put doubts in people who want to become entrepreneurs. Instead, tell them, how can I help you? How can I put you in touch? This is fantastic, and give a lot of words of encouragement and show good examples rather than, failed examples. But I think right from our schooling and college education, we need to certainly do some work.
Right. As Roosevelt said, belief is a work half done. So you have the belief, you half day kind of thing. If you can open up for questions from the audience, we have about 10-15 minutes left. Happy to take questions. Yes, ma'am. A microphone will come to you.
Yeah, hi. My name is Beena Trivedi. Renuka, kudos to you for acknowledging the younger generation's enthusiasm and positive motivation. I work for a corporate myself. In all honesty, with our hand on our hearts, with so many corporate members here, how many times would we hire a 26-year-old lady who's on the dais, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, who had either come in from a failed startup, post their, I don't know, XLRI, IIM Ahmedabad or JBIMS education, versus somebody who had walked into IIM Ahmedabad, spent 2 years at McKinsey or Goldman Sachs or ICICI, and who would you choose? And I think with a hand on the heart, it would be a tough decision for most corporate hirers to make. And that is why the current generation, I am your generation's advice, to kind of be quote unquote entrepreneurial. And you came in post 25 years of corporate experience, which is like a rock solid backup, versus a 25-year-old who is going to go out and start off. You know, our society is not very forgiving of failures.
Renuka?
But fortunately, you're absolutely right that we are not forgiving of failures. And for me, fortunately, in ICICI, the grooming was go out and take the risks, and if you don't succeed, we won't hang you. We will only hang the venture, and we will give you another lease of life. But don't make such a big mistake that you drag the institution down. The institution itself had its own checks and balances such that we can't do those failures. So for me, failure and success have been kind of a mixed bag, and also by the nature of job that I did, which was investing, not all your investments, turn out good. So, but you are absolutely right, and that's why I think we need to do a lot of work at home, in schools, in offices, to encourage people to go out and be venturesome.
Vaishali, you have any thoughts on that? Who would you hire? Somebody from a failed startup?
Yes, actually, I was just, when the lady there was making this point, I was thinking that I, as an entrepreneur, would definitely hire somebody who's gone out there and tried a venture and come back. In fact, in our venture, we've hired people who've been out there and, and they've come back to a corporate job. We are not we are an entrepreneurial outfit, and we try very hard to maintain that culture where it's different. But yeah, I think, and people who have the guts to go and try out their ventures at such a young age, I think are pretty thick-skinned. I mean, they'll just keep at it till they get the job they want in any case. So I think it's important to, as I said, fear management is really important when you set out on this journey. I think you have to totally disregard what people are going to say and what people are going to think, including future employers, because if you're smart, you're going to convince them that what you're doing, what you did was for a reason. What you can do still you only learn from your experience. And one point I wanted to make was that about the pipeline, how do we create more women entrepreneurs? I think it's really important for us to think about how we raise boys in the society and how we raise girls in the society. I think often we encourage girls to be more conservative and not take risks. All the things are changing heavily. I think when I look back, my grandma, she was a graduate and she played tennis for her university, and she stood out. Now if you do that, you have a zillion women doing that. So times have changed, but I think we need to raise men in a way where they appreciate, I think, the qualities and the skills women have. We beat, a kind of boys hollow pretty much in our 12th grade. So the capability is there. I think the mindset for girls, they have to be more self-confident about what they can do, what they're capable of doing, and that's what's required to be an entrepreneur. You have to be able to break rules. We encourage girls not to break rules often. You have to break rules, you have to do things differently. Often it's not the A-type personality types who, I don't know if you are one, I wasn't one, who are not the best entrepreneurs. It's usually people who've gone and done, crazy things, who have it in them to take the risk. So
Absolutely. Yeah?
Well, I knew when I started off that probably the only way now is forward or somewhere else, because it is true that it's not just about whether you'd be hired, it's about whether you'd want to be hired. And you'd rather be behind 3 or 5 or 7 startups that worked or didn't work than probably go back to that. So I think it is about sort of staying low maintenance, as someone shared, and building blocks in a conservative kind of way. And it's about looking at the opportunities. I actually think it's a fantastic time for women entrepreneurs of our generation in this country. Maybe I'm just oblivious of a lot that's going on in the sort of corporate typical sectors. Maybe the creative industries are different, but speaking from this industry, I feel that it's a phenomenal time. There are several untapped opportunities. There are several things that are happening in terms of best practices and products and services in other parts of the world that can be looked at. And essentially, people want women entrepreneurs to succeed. There is a reason why this awards is taking place. There's a reason why platforms like this exist. So I feel like people want to get behind women entrepreneurs. And I feel like this is the time to use that.
Right.
And the fact that there is that kind of collaborative environment to actually grow.
Okay. Questions? Can we have a microphone there, please?
Good evening, everyone. I am a student of the Wellinger Institute of Management. Ma'am, often when we chat amongst our students in college canteens discussing of how we want our future to go, whether we should think about entrepreneurship or whether we should take up a job, we come up with an idea and we very agitatedly discuss about it. But the end of it, there's one person who says, okay, let's first take a job, let's build a safe ground, and then let's think about it 2 years hence. So we have two different, completely different, diverse people who spoke. One who went into entrepreneurship 25 years after building a foundation, and someone who took it up immediately. So how does one go about choosing which path to take and how to make that choice? That's my question.
Somebody wants to take it? Yeah.
I kind of agree with some of the kids when they have this discussion. I think it's important to, to spend some time, working, trying to understand what are you good at, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what do you enjoy doing. If you already have that idea, like a lot of people while they're in school and college kind of figure out that, they're just going to sort of go and set up a business. It could be a function of the families they've been raised in, where it's a business family, and so it's entrepreneurship, and working for someone is not necessarily the best thing to do. So yes, of course, till you have, as I often call it, it's a little bit cliche, but have that calling where you know that you want to work for yourself, and then things fall in place. Once you have that feeling that, okay, I want to work for myself, what am I going to do? Then you go to the next step. And maybe if you don't have that feeling already, maybe you can work and try to sort of see how it goes. But, in my view, I don't think everybody can be an entrepreneur, man or woman. It's not a gender issue here. It's about a personality type. It's about an attitude. It's about a mindset, I think, often as well. So it does help to have expertise, and skills, and then get into it if there is no other base to start from.
Okay. I think we are running out of time, and we'll kind of wind up. There's one reason Shweta walked up to the dais gently to tell me that, we need to go. Just to quickly sum up for all of the young women out there, or men as well, who are thinking of taking the entrepreneurial plunge. What Renuka said, it's never been more a liberating experience than what she did at Multiples. And reset yourself in terms of having very, very low expectations, no expectations almost on what comes your way. What Vaishali talked about, the need to kind of have a big impact out there, which will be something that drives you in your journey. And the last point that Neha said is go with the flow. Hey, don't plan out everything kind of thing. Just go with the flow. So perhaps the answer to the young lady from Velinkar is that go with the flow. Decide what you want to do. 2 years in a lifetime of 70 is hardly a kind of blink, so no problem trying what you're doing.
If I can snatch 10 seconds. People who discuss often don't do. People who want to do just do it.
Thanks so much. A great round of applause, please.